peace today. Lift your hands and say, Lord, you are the strength of my life. You are the strength of my life. I lift my hands and tell you. I lift my hands in total praise to you. Say David Smith is one of the most extraordinary artists and musicians anywhere in the world. Been with me for what, 15, 20, 25, 30?
Stop right
there. People see me all over the country and ask about Azusa and where's David? Where's David? I said, he's still with me. He came over on the ship with me. And I love him so much.
On broken pieces.
Yeah, broken pieces. Yeah, but that's Paul, the shipwreck. Yeah, good. These folks know the Bible. Y'all don't know what I'm saying. I joined my voice with Pastor Marlon to welcome the class of 1967, Booker T. And for Walter Armstrong in the back.
Walter Armstrong.
Old man Armstrong. He told me this, that you all were coming, and I forgot it. We've been moving all weekend long, so I would have tried to look more bishopy or something if I'd have known you all were coming. But you're a handsome class, and I heard of how smart and intelligent and advanced and provocative you are. First we get provoked, and then we become provocative. You provoke people to better works, and you're part of a huge history in this city, and a school that has a reputation all across the nation, different parts of the world, and that you would choose. There's a zillion other places you could have been this morning, collectively and individually, but you chose to come here to All Souls, and we are so incredibly, deeply touched and moved to welcome you. And I remember I was born in 53, I'm 64, so finally I found some old folks. I don't have it many old. They say be kind to the elders, but I can't find none these days. So this class came and I'm trying to look a little younger, the older you get through combing your hair this morning, the counter than on your head, and you're looking around, and you have to take that face and throw it back up there when you get up in the morning. Less hair to comb and more forehead to wash, my mother would say. My wife calls me her senior citizen husband. Today, by the way, is our 25th anniversary. I know you heard that she filed divorce, but she can't stay away from me. She called it off and trying shit. I don't know what she's gonna do next, but she's mine. She texted to say, we're going to meet her in just a little bit. Our baby girl, today you all know Majesty's, Pastor's coming to Majesty's last or finale as Ragtime, a role that Gina played about 15 years ago. Y'all know Gina cannot sing at all, but she got out there and tried. So she said Majesty is redeeming her. My wife cannot sing, no she can't sing, but she's loud, strong, long, and wrong in the house all the time. She got no shame, you know. And then, period. But she's so proud. This is Gina's like 6th time going. So Madge finishes, then she leaves on the 15th for the New York Film Academy. Many of you know this week on Friday, I think she's doing a concert over in Emerson Hall. I hope some of you will come. Just sort of a fundraising concert to go to school. She got this award. She awarded a partial scholarship in July. So we got to get everything ready. They give you these kids these scholarships, and the parents got to jump together to fill in all them gaps. And the partial scholarship is not near as much as them gaps. So, but one lady just last week saw her on the news and brought a $10,000 gift to donate toward her. She'd never even met her. Sarah Jordan and John called us because they knew the lady. She saw Majesty on the news doing the little commercial and started it off like that. So I had to send a check for $9,000 last week, you know. So it's amazing how God just sort of fills in the gaps just at the right time. And thank you, Sarah and John, for helping to be the bridge between them. And we're going to see the lady again, just to tell her how much we love her. Pastor was mentioning this morning and also last week, you know, that we're raising. We're gonna need to raise about $20 to $30 million here to complete our work downtown with this church. We have decided as a church to move downtown. We will actually 4 years from now be facing the Greenwood Street, where in the Greenwood district, where 100 years ago, the worst race massacre in human history, in American history, I should say, took place. A lot of people don't know that. John Legend is working on a movie. Oprah was working on a movie. Something is going to happen. But when I traveled around, I didn't know that when I got here. This church knew it. This church was involved in helping to address those issues many, many years ago, even though the founder of the church helped to instigate that riot. And we've talked about that, and sometimes good people do bad things and bad people do good things. And but they all mean well, and he's the founder of this church, and we've acknowledged his esteemed role. But this church and this pastor particularly, and succeeded by Dr. Wolf, who's in his 90s, were the most socially activist preachers in our city. This is the most socially active non-black preacher. I mean, he lives in a neighborhood over here, on all-white neighborhood. When I drove up to his house, the first time the Black Lives Matter movement occurred, he had a big sign out in front of his house. A big old Black Lives Matter in this white preacher's yard in a white neighborhood. I almost put on a white robe and went in there and told him, what you do? He's way off the chain. You are a remarkable, gutsy, courageous leader with an amazing vision. They think he's blacker than me, you know. I'm so proud. It's not a color issue, it is a culture issue. And it's an issue of character. And so we're working really hard here. But anyway, one lady watches us by virtue, becoming a virtue member. She watches this church every Sunday morning, and she's made a gift of a $5,000 gift toward the building program. Her husband loves Gerald. He doesn't normally, he's not into church, but when Gerald comes on and says, church, that's what she likes. So we're going to have you coming on saying, church, a little bit more, Reverend. So be thinking about that. We'll meet some of the leaders, some of the givers. We'll be meeting this week at the country club. We've got to raise a lot of money, and we want to put our strength behind our pastor and help do this thing. Because we can do it, and we'll have a beautiful place downtown, and we'll celebrate the unity and the universal love that we believe God has for all of humanity on the planet. All souls really are welcomed here. My talk today is titled The Friendship, I'm saying the alliance of faith and fear. The alliance. Some of you know my story, over the last 17 years, since 2000 when I began to shift in consciousness, my faith was tested, and and fear made my faith much more articulate. I didn't know faith could be that articulate until fear is present. They work hand in hand. Faith is the Greek word pistis, and it means firm persuasion based on the conviction of what you've heard, not only with your outer ear, but with your inner ear. All of us have faith. But the faith that lasts is the faith that you hear with your soul, with your psyche. Faith, Scripture says, cometh by hearing, and hearing by the word. That word in Greek is logos, the logic or logistics, the rationale, the reasoning of God. It's just not the written word, the logos. Faith comes by hearing. You've heard me say many times that Greek word is akouo, where we get the English word acoustics, the bouncing around of sound. You hear sound. That word is akos in Greek, English word echo. And an echo is a sound out of the past. Your faith is connected to the original idea that sponsored or spawned your existence on this planet. You've heard me say that I think we all agreed to come here, but between the womb and the tomb experienced some kind of spiritual amnesia and forgot that we said yes and panic and say no ever since. And that hit me one day, and I was having a lot of self-pity for all the things I'd gone through and all the things I thought I'd lost. And it dawned on me, I thought I heard the Holy Ghost say in my heart, what if you agreed to come here and forgot about it? Yeah. What if you're not a victim of destiny or of creation? What if you actually came to some kind of contract with creation or creator, and you signed a contract to come to this planet or plane, this planet of consciousness, to experience your own divinity, express your divinity as a human deity, made in the image and likeness of the divine. If we're made in the image and likeness of God, we are images or imaginary gods with a little g. We're all divine, and we all know we're divine, but we don't acknowledge it unless somebody tells us otherwise and insults us. Somebody can tell you you're divine, you go, oh, y'all, you don't know me. You don't really know the real me. If we say you're dumb and stupid, your nostrils flare, and you say, who are you talking to? Because deep down in our hearts, we know we're okay, but we don't believe it. Because we've been taught something different. You believe what you're taught and told. You know what your soul, yourself, your psyche experiences. So faith comes by hearing, and hearing by the logistics of divine mind. Speech and language dictate the actions, factions, and functions of the soul. You've heard me say many times that we don't only spell words, words spell us and cast spells on us. That's what a spell-binding speaker is. That could be anywhere from Hitler to Dr. King to Donald Trump. There's a lot of people under his spell, especially church folk. That's a whole other subject. I'm not going to deal with that today. But your spouse, your mate, your children can have a spell on you. Your grandchildren can have a spell on you. Your puppy can have a spell on you. We are all basically superstitious people, and we believe in stuff. Even those of us who think we don't believe in something, you believe in everything. If you don't believe in something, you've got to believe that you don't believe in that something. Talk to me, somebody. So, divine mind, speech and language dictate the actions of the psyche or the psyche. That's the Greek word for soul. We had our English word psychology or psyche. We're all psychic by nature. The totality of the human mind, the conscious and unconscious mind, is your psyche. It's the incorporeal essence of a living being. Being psychic, something I believe all humans are, but tend to deny, neglect, or ignore. And to ignore doesn't mean to not know, it means to not notice, or not make note of, or not to notate. All of us are psychic by nature. We have ESP. We have extrasensory perceptions, whether we deny it or not. You can sense something. You can feel something. Your body knows. Your cells know. Your soul knows. We're all sort of clairvoyant. We all have a sort of telepathy. We can tell. We can hear sounds. We can see things. But we deny that part of our person or our essence. And your essence is your essential or your immutable, immortal, immeasurable self. Not your accidental self, your permanent self. We're not just human beings looking for spiritual experiences. We're spirit having an earthly encounter. We have a mind, we have a body, but we are spirit. We are essentially, we've always been and will always be. We recognize loved ones who have transitioned or died. They're not really gone, they're just in a different form. I just got news today that some of y'all might remember Michelle Field, who went to our church, that from the, what did I ask you, Gerald? The Goodwin family. Her little 19-year-old son graduated from high school and then went to college and got a scholarship for college and was on his way, a football scholarship, I think just last week, and dropped dead, just 19 years old. She's devastated. And I sent word to her today that the son is just manifesting in a different form. Jesus said, in my Father's house are many mansions, meaning dimensions. The Greek word means floors and spaces and places or compartments or compartments. He's in the same house, just on a different floor. You have loved ones who you think have gone over. They have, but they're as close to you as the breath you breathe. The Greek word for spirit is pneuma, where we get the word pneumonia or pneumatic or pneumon, which is the Greek word for lungs. It's breath. Your loved ones that have transitioned are as close to you as the breath you breathe. Because we're all essence, we're all spirit. We've always been, we will always be. We manifest in different forms and different formations and with different formulas. Depends on what kind of formula you're drinking or eating or taking. What was y'all doing last night? Don't be looking at me all religious and all. Y'all was having communion and it wasn't the first Sunday. I know what you're doing. So we're dealing with this amazing, if you stop and think, I call them deja vus. Now, faith is mixed with fear. Faith and fear run hand in hand. They don't cancel out each other. They affirm each other. I've been taught that when you have fear, you don't have faith. But when do you need your faith more? But when you're scared. So let me begin the lecture by asking you a question. What do you fear most? Why do you fear it? And what do you have faith for? And why do you need it? If I ask you, what do you fear most, to write it down, what would you say? Death, sickness, poverty, lack, loss, alienation, isolation. I'll lose my friend or my loved one or my parent or my sibling or my spouse or my child or my hair, my weight, my teeth. What am I going to lose? My memory. I was standing in, I don't know if I told y'all this, I was standing when we were living in Chicago, Gina had gone to bed, and I was just cleaning up in the restroom, and I turned the light out and couldn't see my way back down into the suite. And so I remembered that, but I couldn't find my cell phone. I had it, but I couldn't find it. And but I remembered I had just put a flashlight app on my cell phone. So I picked up the cell phone, turned on the app, and started looking for the cell phone. That's the honest to God's truth. I said, baby cat, have you seen my phone? I don't know where your phone is, honey. I said to my wife, baby, I can't find my cell phone. Have you seen it? She said, no, I don't know where it is, honey. You're always losing it. I said, I had it right here. And I said, but I just added a flashlight. If I had the cell phone, I'd find the flashlight and I'd find the phone. I don't remember grabbing the phone. I remember finding the cell phone light, the flashlight, and I was all down in the room. I thought, and she saw me doing it with the phone and didn't notice it. So she called me her, because I'm 10 years older, her senior citizen husband. I said, you just as senior as I am. My mama says, Daddy, to my dad, you always forgetting what I can't remember. You can't remember nothing I forget, she would say. Well, what do you have to fear? Why do you fear it? And how does your faith answer your fears? First of all, you can easily be friendly without actually having or necessarily being friends with something or somebody. You can be courteous without actually courting. So you can be friendly with fear and not be a friend with it. You can court fear, because we all do. In fact, again, the fear factor sometimes accentuates the faith factor. You wouldn't even need faith if you weren't dancing with fear or doubt. A double-minded, double D-O-U-B-L-E and D-O-U-B-T, they're similar words. A double-minded person has no stability, the Bible says. You bounce back and forth. You're in and out. And we all go through, this is the greatest day of my life. It's the worst day. It's the greatest time. It's the worst time. I feel great. I feel wonderful. How you doing? I'm pretty good. I'm fine. Except I got this little pain in my back. We all say, pretty good. How you doing? Pretty good. How you doing? I'm doing fine. Wait just a couple seconds. Just a little crick in my head, a little crick in my neck. I'm doing fine. A little swelling in my knee. I'm doing fine. I've had this cough. And the longer you listen, the longer the list comes. I ain't got no money. I don't like my spouse. My kids is crazy. The world is going to hell. You know, you got all those different things piled up in there, and they feed and fuel fears. And every day, even so-called faithless people exercise faith to live. Takes faith to flip on a switch. Takes faith to get in your car, to drive. Friendship is defined as a state of mutual trust and support between allied nations or allied entities. Friendship. You all are friends. You're friendly. Some of you are closer than others. We're all friends. We have little cliques and clubs and clans and little groups that we get together with and we hang out with and we expose ourselves to. There's a little more intimacy there. Then there are people that we're not friends with. We don't really hang out with, but we're friendly toward. You have family members that you're closer to. This is like I say all the time. Just because somebody loves you, that doesn't mean they like you. There's a lot of people you love that you don't like. Some of them you grew up with. Slept in the same bed, got some of the same whippings for the same reason, but you don't like them. You would do anything for them, but you don't like them. Most people are married to somebody they don't like. They start out liking, then they fall in love, then they stay in love. It's hard to fall out of love, but it's easy to fall out of like. Talk to me, somebody. Especially when you're struggling with liking you. Most of us love ourselves, but we don't like ourselves. There again is the factor of these two different alliances. The word alliance is a state of being joined or associated. So fear and faith have entered some kind of alliance. It's a union or association formed for mutual benefit. Faith supports fear. Fear somehow supports faith. Being afraid of a serpent is having faith in its power to hurt you. So faith is fear in reverse, and fear is faith in reverse. Being afraid of a storm is having faith in its power to mess you up. So where you say you have fear, we also have faith. If you have a history of sugar diabetes or high blood pressure or heart disease or cancer or Alzheimer's, you have that in your mind, you believe in it, you fear you might have it, and you have faith in the possibility, and you might get it. So manipulating your faith around and making that energy go in the right direction is the challenge of everyday experiences. I know that there may be heart disease in my family or inherited or genetic sugar diabetes or blood pressure or whatever, but I don't have to believe that it's part of my line, and I don't have to start waiting for it and anticipating it and being afraid that I'm going to get it because mom and them had it. We have faith that we'll raise $20, $30 million to build a new church. And we fear that we might not. So when the fear rises, faith has to overrule. Somebody said, when fear knocked on my door, faith answered, and there wasn't nobody there. But every time I've exercised faith for anything I've ever done in my entire life, from starting Higher D in Jinx, Oklahoma, in 1981, a city that had a law on the books that said no black could be there past 6 o'clock at night. That law was still on the books. When I bought the building and secured the property, I didn't go myself. I sent my white staff people. Some of my best friends is white folks. I paid them well and all. Those bankers did not know I was buying that building until I walked up in there as the president in living color and signed the paper. It was too late to turn around then. And I said, well, I noticed you have a law on the book here that says blacks can't be in this town past 6 o'clock. We want to have Sunday night service. What are we going to do here? And they said, oh, don't worry about that. That's not an actor. I said, I know it isn't. Get it off the books. That was a major shift, but it took faith and fear. Every time I've ever used faith, it was always accompanied by fear. And I learned not to allow fear to be my enemy, but to be my adversary, but to be my alliance, my ally. The more fear I had, the greater my faith expanded. And the more my faith expands, the more fear pronounces itself. But I don't allow them to be enemies. So I'm walking in faith and fear at the same time and getting the job done. I've got them both. And I'm not apologizing. Now, when Jesus asked, what fellowship hath light with darkness? He was actually suggesting the possibility and the probability that there is fellowship with light and darkness. You can talk as if you're so, I have perfect fear. That probably means you have fairly perfect faith. Perfect faith, you have fairly perfect fear. The more perfect your faith, the more perfect your fear. The more perfect your fear, when I say perfect, I mean mature, the more mature your faith. It just dawned on me when we started this series that I can work this thing out just by not naming fear an enemy. Remember the scripture talks about Adam naming the animals? All of us have animals in our lives. Beasts, creeps, and creatures. Creepy things. Name them. Name them. When cancer entered my body 17 years ago, I didn't tell anybody because I knew at that time I was going through this major transition, and church folk particularly would say, that's God fixing to kill him. You know, church folk can be some of the meanest folks you'll ever meet. And they're mean because they're mad. And they're mad because they think God don't like them. I know the Lord loves me, but I just, we don't think God likes us. I think grace says this. Not that grace is not just unmerited favor. Grace actually suggests that God likes you. Come on, say, God likes me. That may be one of the most faith-filled, fearful statements you ever make. Because it's hard to believe that God likes us because all the stuff we taught each other that suggests we're not likable. You would be afraid to doubt God's love because that would send you to hell. And most folks thinking, oh, if I don't believe God loves me, He's going to send me to hell. If I don't believe God loves me, He's going to send me. How are you going to love you and send you to hell at the same time? His mercy endures forever. Well, but so does hell. Does one cancel out the other? Write that down and send it to mom and dad. So Jesus says, what fellowship hath light with darkness? How can a good God be a bad one too? How can a good God be a hateful God? In the most honest interpretation of conscience, conscience has always had dual occupancy. Your conscience has always had dual occupancy. Both faith and fear live there and interact. They even cooperate daily, not to mention hour by hour, moment by moment. They are both familiar with and used to each other. They actually share a kind of codependency. Given its grassroots origin, the precise definition of codependency varies based on the source, but can be generally characterized as a subclinical and situational or episodic behavior similar to that of dependent personality disorder. All of us have personality disorders. Amen. 2 or 3 of you said amen. You thought, do I? One of them didn't say nothing. You've heard me say we all walk along, but none of us walks alone. We pick up passengers along the way and hitchhikers. They're in there. And they all have opinions. They may be nameless and faceless, but you're listening to them talk to you right now, making commentary on what I'm saying. We have passengers. You can't have one conversation with anybody without those passengers sharing their opinions. You can have a complete conversation with one individual. When you get through, you don't remember what you talked about. You remember what they talked about. Sometimes you have one in the passenger side, some in the rear view, some in the side view, and they're all leaning forward saying something. Some of you just drive a small car with 2 or 3 passengers. Some of us drive buses. We got all them passengers in there. They're always talking, always knowing, always biting, always having opinions. What do you do with them? What do you tell them? There's so many voices. There's a scripture that says, by the rivers of Babylon we sat and wept when we remembered Zion. By the rivers of Babylon, Babel. That means multi-voices, languages, and choices, all speaking at once. In the Old Testament, Babel. By the rivers of confusion, Babel. Too many voices and choices. We sat and wept when we remembered Zion, Zion, sign in the Hebrew. Signature, design, assignment, significance. All that's I wept, I heard all this confusion, and I remembered my signature. In the midst of all that confusion, I remembered the sign that I am. I remembered the signal that I am. I remembered the assignment of my life and the sign of my soul and the signature of my spirit. In the midst of all, every time I get confused, I look for the sign that I am. Talk to me, somebody. That's how I find myself in the midst of all that. I am a sign. I have a sign. All of us send out a signal everywhere we go. Even with all those voices, and there's so many of them, you've never known the name, you don't know what they look like, but you hear them, and faith comes by hearing. Yes. Talk to me, somebody. So you hear them. What do you tell them? I tell them, shut the front door. Did you see 67? Y'all? Some of these old-time church, well, you ain't gonna say that in here. I didn't say it, you thought it. Up in here, up in here. So we all have personality disorders. Some just manage the personalities better. A fearful personality is one who has more faith in what it fears than what it is. By disorder, I mean a psychological pattern associated with distress. One of those personalities in you is so afraid and suspicious of every and anything, period. You don't trust anything or anyone, including yourself. Some people are so addicted to the adrenaline that comes from crisis, till when things get peaceful, they panic and create crisis just to get that high. How many of you know some people like that? It's always crisis. They will never give you 2 or 3 words in peace. They live off crisis, and they keep it going. They create it because they are adrenaline addicts. At this stage in my life, I need peace. I'm too old for all that drama. At 64, I'm just too old for all that drama. I don't get ticked off as quickly. I don't react as quickly. I don't respond the same way. I just learned how to. My dad was that way. My dad stayed like this all the time. You could never, hardly ever get my dad. He's my example of how to just remain calm. He just handled it. He carried stuff, but he lived 88 years. You know, I just learned how not to. Somebody could give me a nose. You want to go? Oh my God! Oh gee. Okay, let's talk about it. I told you when cancer entered my body, I had a conversation with it. I said, let's talk. What you here for? Because you're not here to kill me. You sent it. You have an assignment. If you got to make me more humble or show me, because you can't teach what you don't know and you can't lead where you don't go. I've been in the healing ministry all these years, and what am I doing with cancer? I had more success praying for people with cancer than any other sickness. My second success was in praying for women who were infertile. I don't want a healing line. Anybody want to have a kid today? But I had extra success with cancer. Oh, look at 67. They groaning over here. Y'all ain't been that vocal since I've been here. Oh, no, Reverend. No. Well, I had that conversation. I was humiliated. I mean, I went through some real humbling experiences. I learned stuff about the man of faith and power that didn't exist. Hanging around with Oral Roberts all those years, I don't do hospitals, except to pray for the sick. I don't sit in clinics and they call my name, sitting up there. I remember thinking they'd come and say, Carlton, loud as, like they got a microphone calling my name. And everybody in there, half of them knew who I was, and I'd sit right by the door, so when the nurse said it, as soon as she said it, I was in there. Pride, ego, arrogance. Cancer taught me a lot. I never had fear of it. If it was supposed to kill me, I said, if you've come to kill me, if I'm going to send as many folks to hell as they say I am, then you should take me out. I give you permission, I'll work with you. If I'm that off. But if you let me live, if you're only here to teach me, and that's what your assignment is as far as I'm concerned, I will never turn my back. I will never look back, because I know what God is saying in my soul about who God is and who God isn't. And like the old song says, my soul looks back and wonder how I got over. Look at somebody and say, how I got over. How I got over. My soul looks back and wonder how I got over, yeah. Look at somebody again and say, how I got over. How I got over. My soul looks back and wonder how I got over. Oh, yeah. Give 2 or 3 high fives and say, oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. That's what a Unicostal sounds like. God bless you, God. Hey. Stand on your feet. Time to go home.
Yeah, come on up.
You're my brother, you're my sister, so take me by the hand. Everybody, forever we will work until we're done. There's no foe that can defeat us when we're walking side by side. As long as there is love, we will stand.
Hey, we're so happy you're visiting with us online today. We love connecting with people all across the country and around the world, sharing our powerful message of love beyond belief.
There's something new happening here. You can now join All Souls as a virtual member. Our virtual membership is designed for friends who live outside of Tulsa, Oklahoma, and who want to engage with All Souls in a meaningful way.
You can be part of an expanding family, a global family really, wherever you are. If you live in Oklahoma,
Ohio,
or Orange County, California,
Canada,
or Cameroon. By becoming a virtual member, you'll be able to deepen your connections with members and friends here in Tulsa and with members wherever you are.
Each week, you'll receive special All Souls content tailored for you, our virtual members. Virtual members have access to pastoral care, to personal prayers, and also receive invitations to exclusive web events.
You can learn more, and if you're ready, you can become a virtual member today by visiting allsoulschurch.org/virtual membership.
We're grateful our ministries are having a positive impact on your life, and we want to share the good news of love beyond belief with more and more people. So no matter what, we need your support to keep this ministry growing and thriving, so please consider making a gift today. You can do so by texting
LOVEBB for Love Beyond Belief to 73256, or simply visit our website. You are a blessing in our lives. May you be blessed
and be a blessing.